From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, this is Iowa Ag Matters. In today's show, Mark visits with Iowa Farm Bureau President Brent Johnson. I discuss the latest crop conditions with Landus Cooperative technical agronomist Dan Bjorklund, and we listen into a segment from the Markets in Motion panel at this year's NAFB Summer Showcase. I'm Riley Smith, one of your hosts for today, and joining me now is Mark Magnuson. And Mark, I will say, the weather this morning stepping outside feels a lot nicer than the brutal oven-like temperatures that we have been seeing here so far this July.
You know what it made me think of, Riley, these last few mornings? It felt a lot like those mornings when we're at the Iowa State Fair. When you pull into the parking lot, it's a little bit cool when you get out of your car. And then usually, as the day goes on, it warms up quite a bit. And by the time you're back in your car at the end of the day, it's quite a bit warm. But that is kind of what I was reminiscing about here in the last few mornings. And as I look towards tomorrow's forecast, going to continue to be cooler here in the central part of Iowa. But as we look at the forecast for the end of July, it is calling for those return of hot and dry conditions. It is going to warm up here again in the coming days. And that's something that I've been talking with our market analyst about over the past couple of days, is that there are starting to be some fears about reaching those yields that we maybe expected at the very early part of the growing season this year. There's starting to be some concerns because of that heat and the dryness that we might not get those yields, those top end yields that we were expecting. And that maybe is even being factored into the ag marketplace a little bit, which goes along with what we've seen in recent days. The spike in the wheat price, of course, that is mostly tied to the situation with the war in Ukraine and Russia. But the soybean complex, the corn complex, getting a boost from that wheat situation. But at the same time, those concerns over yields starting to pop up a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like the marketplace right now is kind of a supercharged weather market where, yes, we're looking at those weather concerns, and then also the global factors are making it even more volatile. I have heard a lot about the kind of weather concerns with the crop. We know here in Iowa, we've gotten, especially in central Iowa, we've gotten a lot of rain, so we're good on that front. But some parts of the state are starting to see hail damage from storms. Western Iowa is still very dry. And then outside of Iowa, you go west, and they've been dry for a long time. You know, we hear from some of our agmarket.net analysts and out in North Dakota, and they say it's been hot and dry and miserable for their crops. So there are a lot of things kind of weighing into that right now. And like you mentioned, if we don't see those top-end yields, we're looking at tight supplies this year. We might not see a lot of things that the USDA was planning on, and that could really throw a wrench into things as we get towards the end of the crop season. As for the rest of that market conversation, we're going to start off here with Zach Hooker of Comstock as Mark Magnuson has some opening market conversation on the grains.
Joined today by Zach Hooker of Comstock for the opening market discussion. Zach, what's happening with the trade in the grains after a green day on our screens yesterday?
Yeah, green day yesterday and a little bit of volatility overnight throughout the whole complex, really. We're seeing wheat futures kind of pull back a little bit. Again, you kind of, maybe perhaps got a little overextended, overbought yesterday, but still really hinging on developments in the Black Sea region. And so I can't say I expect those losses to last long unless we get some changes over there. Corn is currently up to December corn sitting at 487, even up 2.25. And then soybeans, of course, November beans are sitting at 1246.25, up 7.25 on the day. Really seeing some movement in the soybeans that I'm going to really credit to just money flow and seeing how much hedge funds and some of these outside influences are willing to buy this market up. We of course took out some pretty significant highs the last couple of days, and I guess we're going to see how high we can take this thing for now.
And as you mentioned, with the issues with the war between Russia and Ukraine causing that wheat price to jump, how much of that is tied to the price movement we've seen from corn and soybeans in recent days?
Oh, I think a lot of it. I think that's probably one of your biggest movers here. I especially, we talked about the wheat and how, we know the corn is tied to that fairly well, and the entire complex kind of can rally around that same deal. We've seen several several ports either shut down or a tax on them again. There's so much news coming out of that region. Really, what we'll chalk it up to is just ramped up conflict in the region that really is giving the grains quite a boost here.
In your opinion right now, Zach, what's the current situation on the weather outlook and some of our concerns that we have right now?
Yeah, I mean, depending on the model that you look at, obviously we've got a little bit different forecast here, but I think overall we've just got to expect more of what we've seen. These hot, dry temperatures are going to kind of be the overarching theme across the country. I'm out west here, and we're very dry. I know most of the Corn Belt here. I mean, obviously we've got some rain in the immediate forecast, but you get more than 5-10 days out, and really we're looking at back up in the high 90s. Your guess is as good as mine on what's actually going to happen, but as far as what most of the forecasts are reading, it looks like we're in for more of that.
So with those hot and dry conditions then, Zach, do you think that the trade is factoring in at all that we could have a little bit lower yields than maybe we anticipated at the start of the growing season?
Yeah, I believe so. And I think some of the yield conversation, again, comes down to also comparison to last year. I mean, you look at the crop conditions rating we get every year, and you compare it to the 5-year average, and you kind of get a different feeling than if you compare it to last year. I mean, if we look at good to excellent and corn ratings this year compared to last year, you're looking at a 5 to 7% difference there, which can maybe give you a little bit more of a dismal feeling. But you compare it to the 5-year average, I don't think we're super out of whack, but absolutely, I think maybe we got a little optimistic towards the beginning of the year. And as of right now, if this weather continues looking the way that it's looking, we absolutely could see lower yields, and that's going to be obviously beneficial for corn prices. Now, a week ago, we had seen some what looked like a lot of moisture coming in the forecast, which was kind of expected to be a bit of a rally killer. And at this point, I don't know if that's going to be the case.
Looks like another perfect day to get out there and enjoy the summer.
You hear that? Live music, laughing kids, the roar of the rides, and someone yelling, "Corn dogs!" That's Fair Spirit at the Iowa State Fair, August 13th through 23rd in Des Moines. 11 days of blue ribbon traditions, big summer nights, incredible food, and the kind of memories you talk about all year long. This is your Iowa State Fair. Plan your visit now at iowastatefair.org.
August 13th through the 23rd.
There's a ton of market conversation happening across the ag industry right now as we have a lot of factors impacting those grain prices. Russ Parker was down in Kansas City for the NAFB Summer Showcase. Listen in to the Markets in Motion panel, which is hosted by Nathan Steedley, Ag Director at KFEQ in St. Joe.
Agriculture has never been accused of having a lack of uncertainty, but it seems like the list of market-moving factors are growing month by month and at least year by year, from weather and global demands and geopolitics, trade policy, interest rates, list goes on and on. Producers are facing and trying to balance more variables than they ever have before. Today, I'm fortunate enough to have an outstanding panel here today. We've got Arlen Suderman. He's the chief economist at StoneX Group. Mark Hobrock, Senior Vice President at the Andersons, and Mike Zuzolo, President and owner of Global Commodity Analytics. Thank you guys so much for taking the time out to join us here today too, okay? Before we jump into any specific topics, I'm going to give you each a couple of minutes to kind of set the stage from where you sit today. What's the most important thing that producers and those in agriculture and covering agriculture should understand about the commodity markets as we look forward towards the next year?
It's headlines driving things. And the billions of dollars of fund money in there being driven by those headlines. And when you look, it's not just what the condition of the crop is. This time of year, we're primarily just focused on crop ratings and weather patterns. And now we're focused on how much corn possibly, or wheat, let alone soybeans, China may buy for political rather than economic reasons. And we have a biofuel program that is strong, giving us strong domestic demand that is politically based. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's driven by policy. That's what I'm trying to say, and intentional by policy. And then you throw on top of that not only the war in Iran, but I think the market's been missing in the last few weeks that the bigger impact potentially on the grain and oil seeds is what's happening in the Black Sea and what Ukraine is able to achieve with its improved drone technology and how that could dynamically change the global trade in a time when we have policy-driven demand that's both domestic and global.
I'll add in there, I think with the geopolitical concerns, it seems like as we turn the corner, every quarter there's something else going on, right? Mm-hmm. Arlen just mentioned the Russia-Ukraine situation. Guys, it's heating up. It's not quite 2022, what it was, but as each country's bombing ships, bombing elevators, bombing export facilities, Russia is the residual supplier of wheat to the world. Just like I think North America is a residual supplier of corn today, and South America is a residual supplier of soybeans. So obviously we saw wheat take a big uptick the last 3-4 trading days, about unchanged today, a little bit higher. But that's driving a lot of this. And the fund money that Arlen mentioned is that's something we try to predict, and we can't, right? It's all algorithm-based, just like a lot of the stock market algorithms are based. A farmer can't do that. So I think a risk management plan on the farm gate, switches to a farm gate side. As my family still farms in Illinois, I found my way to Kansas City, thank goodness. But risk management is a big, big piece. And I think a lot of these producers know their cost of production today, but they're up against a windfall of high input prices. They're up against a windfall of a commodity market that changes, I used to say in 30 days, now it changes in 30 seconds. And that's a big headwind that these farmers have to face, and we have to help them with the risk management piece of it.
ACM and CMA award winner, Hardy.
That's my favorite country song.
Live in concert.
I woke up on the wrong side of the truck bed this morning.
August 13th, 8 p.m., Iowa State Fair Grandstand.
You got it good, old boy.
With special guest McCoy Moore. Hardy Live. Reserve tickets on sale now through iowastatefair.org. Hardy 2026.
Time to run down those basis numbers for you here on Iowa Ag Matters on this Thursday. I'm Dustin Huffman. Taking a look at cash bids around the state, just under half of our elevators making switches. Let's go ahead and run down those prices. ADM Burlington 14 cents under on corn, $4.51. Soybeans a dime under at $12.28. Cargill and Eddyville 17 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.48. New Co-op Algona 33 cents under on corn, $4.32. Soybeans 25 cents under, cash bid $12.13. Ag State in Sheldon, they are 17 cents under on corn at $4.48. Soybeans 40 cents under November at $12.04. Ag State Delta 29 cents under on corn, $4.36. Soybeans 35 cents under November at $12.09. Back to the August contracts for soybeans here on out. Cargill Cedar Rapids a dime under on corn, $4.55. Soybeans a nickel over, cash bid $12.43. Five-Star Co-op Nashua 32 cents under on corn, $4.33. Soybeans 33 cents under at $12.05. Lincoln Way Energy Nevada 22 cents under on corn, $4.43 for the cash bid. ADM Des Moines 5 cents under on soybeans, their cash price $12.33. New Co-op in Red Oak, they are 20 cents under on corn, $4.45. Soybeans 20 cents under at $12.18. Mid-Iowa Cooperative Green Mountain 45 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.20. Soybeans 50 cents under at $11.88. New Co-op Sheraton 24 cents under on corn, $4.41. Soybeans 25 cents under, cash bid $12.13. Walk-On Feed Ranch, 43 cents under on corn, $4.22. Soybeans, 54 cents under, $11.84. New Co-op Glidden, 31 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.34. Soybeans, 25 cents under at $12.13. Innovative Ag Services Farley, 41 cents under on corn, $4.24. Soybeans, 50 cents under with a cash bid of $11.88. Cargill Muscatine, 23 cents under on corn, $4.42. Soybeans, 18 cents under at $12.20. Cash corn and soybean bids are subject to change without notice. Always check with your local elevator or making sales to obtain the most recent price. That's been a check of your basis numbers here on Iowa Ag Matters. Stay with us. We'll be back right after this.
Rod Stewart.
When I see you tonight,
A special evening with the icon.
on a downtown train,
A night of hit
you wish
after hit after hit with special guest Richard Marks. Friday, August 14th, Iowa State Fair Grandstand. Reserve tickets on sale now through iowastatefair.org. Don't miss an electrifying event. Friday, August 14th. Rod Stewart, live.
This is Iowa Ag Matters on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and it is time for a featured conversation with Dan Bjorklund of Landus Cooperative as Riley Smith gets the latest crop conditions from around the state. Here's Riley with more.
Here right now with Dan Bjorklund, a technical agronomist with Landus Cooperative, for our biweekly agronomy update. And Dan, there's been a lot that has happened recently across the state. We've had a windbag storm across central Iowa that caused a lot of rain, a lot of wind. We've seen hail damage. So let's start off talking about that storm that happened earlier this week. Plenty of rain, plenty of damage. What have you seen across the state?
Well, even in Huxley, they were reporting 7 inches of rain. So that's not far off from that storm a few weeks ago that hit 10 inches, between, Ankeny and South and in various areas. Up where I live, around Webster City, there was hail up to about, they're talking baseball size. I mean, crazy. When you drive on 20 heading that direction, you could see the damage. So, and then eastern Iowa has just plain been wet really the entire growing season, including the rain that just went through. But Riley, interesting, if you go to western Iowa and go west of Highway 71 and that western third, they've been pretty dry. It has been a very strange year.
And so when we look at just kind of the consequences of all of that, how significant has that hail damage been that we've seen? I mean, I saw pictures of some corn that was pretty stripped down, but is it at least isolated enough to where it hasn't been a major widespread issue yet?
The worst of the hail is still isolated, and they're still projecting really pretty decent yields in Iowa. I do think that if you drive on Highway 69 south of Ames and head towards Huxley and then up past Slater into Ankeny, you can see the result of some of those heavier rains because the beans, there are obviously low areas that are gone, and there are big sections of corn that have had too much rain and they're turning yellow, or because of lack of nitrogen, or they just died because they were just flooded too long.
And I think that's interesting because then we'll talk about eastern Iowa later, but then we look at western Iowa. A lot of it's still bone dry. I mean, we got the rain that we needed for parts of the state, but some of them are still needing to see some of that moisture, right?
Yes, and I've been scouting all over the territory that Landus covers. So we go all the way to Ida Grove, parts over there down, in areas by Earlham and west of there in south to Atlantic. And those areas have just missed some of the rain. It's interesting that I think we had enough rain earlier in the spring that corn and soybeans still are holding in there pretty good, even with the heat last week. Of course, this week helped, or at least, this few days helped with temperatures dropping back. But that area would be an area that I'm most concerned about. For getting some rain here the next 4 weeks will be really important.
And then moving on to eastern Iowa, they have been seeing pretty consistent rain. The ground is still very moist there. And unfortunately, we have since seen southern rust in some eastern Iowa counties. Tell us a little bit about that detection of southern rust, and what does that mean for the rest of the state?
Yes, I'm going to use last year as a comparison because everybody remembers last year. Last year, we were using our Sky Scout program, and that directs where we scout in fields that are signed up. And we found southern rust last year on the 17th of July. And I was telling people then the weather the next 2 or 3 weeks after that was going to determine what happened. Well, the weather was, perfect for it. And we have epidemics and really in a large part of the state of Iowa. This year it's been confirmed by the Crop Protection Network on the 21st. We have some fields over in eastern Iowa that we were looking at even 2 weeks ago that we're pretty sure it was the beginning of southern rust. You just could compare what those pustules look like. And so Since it has been so wet and since it's been warm, because southern rust, coming from the south likes it warm and wet, in the eastern Iowa and the eastern half of the state, really 35 and east, and actually even some of those counties west a little bit, like Boone County and Story County down to Polk, have the potential to have that disease develop because the weather is still ideal. It's just depending upon when the spores land. And once it lands, and once you have 3 or 4 counties, which we have in eastern Iowa, and you have optimal conditions, it can spread really quickly. We saw last year within 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, we had it all the way into the upper canopy. And if the corn wasn't protected with fungicide, there were fields that had basically succumbed to the disease and died by the middle of August. And there were significant yield losses up to 50 bushels, Riley.
So with the lessons that we learned from last year with southern rust, what can we do at this point now that we've seen it there to hopefully mitigate any damage that could be caused by it?
I'm a big promoter in preventative fungicide use. And I know we have a lot of different opinions on this. Wait till you see a certain threshold number of plants with a certain amount of infection. I believe the best situation with southern rust is to never see it. So I want to go out with fungicide right now, and especially in those areas that have had plenty of rainfall in eastern half of the state, and those counties I mentioned, Boone, Story, and Polk, and others that have had rainfall, and put preventative fungicide on right now. Stop it in the tracks so that you don't have it blow up like it did last year.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
This year at the Iowa State Fair, Fair Spirit meets 250 years of American history in a celebration across the fair. See the America 250 Iowa display and a permanent sculpture created just for the fair. Walk the Iowa Veterans Memorial Walkway honoring service and sacrifice. Experience 250 years of the American flag, along with red, white, and blue contests and fair favorites. Then look to the sky for drone shows glowing in red, white, and blue, lighting up the fair like never before. From history to celebration, it all comes together at the Iowa State Fair. Learn more at iowastatefair.org.
August 13th through the 23rd.
This is the Midday Market Update on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson, joined at midday by Amanda Brill of Total Farm Marketing. Amanda, what are we looking at with the trade in the grains here at midday?
We've got corn and soybeans higher. Corn's up 2 cents. Soybeans are up 2 3/4. They have backed off from their highs earlier this morning. We've really been mostly rallying on this anticipation of a hotter, drier forecast in the next 1 to 2 weeks. But as it stands right now, weather's not been terrible. I think the crop is not in a really bad place. So we'll see how things kind of unfold from here. Wheat is down 2.5 cents. It's also backed off of its lows. And, at this point, wheat has just spiked up so high with the tension with Russia and Ukraine and the closure of that canal. To me, it seems like as soon as they get that fixed and Russia's able to export wheat like it was before, might be kind of watch out below for wheat. But for now, things are quieted down a little bit, but overall still higher.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade?
We have the August live cattle higher. Really, August, October, all the deferred contracts are up about $1.50. The feeders are up about $2.80 across the board. They've really been trending lower. I mean, almost straight down since June 18th. And even though we're higher today, it does concern me that we took out yesterday's low. So it's not like I necessarily think there's a bottom in yet. I think the anticipations that cash will be lower again this week. Box beef has been down, maybe some issues with demand, but also prices have just been elevated for so long that could just be a necessary correction.
And with the hog side, we've seen finally some better footing for the hogs. Is that continuing here today?
A little bit. They're showing a little bit of strength, not much. August is up 30 cents. October's up 22. They might be looking a little toppy. The stochastics have them overbought, and they're kind of sitting just right above their 100-day moving average. So I'm keeping a close eye on them. There is a seasonal that I saw to sell them around this time, hold for about 2 weeks I've seen. So that's something I've looked at as well. So just with all those things kind of combined, I'm just keeping my eye on them. Wouldn't be surprised if they slide a little bit lower.
That was Amanda Brill with Total Farm Marketing. We will have a check of the numbers next.
Get in the fair spirit at the Iowa State Fair and save before you go. The countdown is on to the Iowa State Fair, and now's the time to plan ahead. With advance admission tickets, lock in your visit before you arrive and step into 11 days of live music, fair traditions, incredible food, and summer moments you look forward to all year long. Save $5 now. Advance tickets are available now at iowastatefair.org, on the app, and at participating Iowa Hy-Vee and Fairway stores. Celebrate fair spirit at the Iowa State Fair.
August 13th through the 23rd.
September corn is up 2 cents at $4.64. August soybeans up 1.5 at $12.34.5. August soybean meal down 50 cents at $3.31.10. August soybean oil up 2 cents at $75.50. August live cattle up $1.53 at $224.73. August feeder cattle up $2.05 at $343.23. August lean hogs up 25 cents at $101.70. August pork cutout is unchanged at $114.88. Class 3 milk down 28 cents at $17.65. That was a check of the midday markets on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson.
And we're resuming the conversation now for the markets on Iowa Ag Matters as Mark Magnuson finishes the opening market conversation with Zach Hooker of Comstock as they talk now about the cattle and hogs.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade?
Yeah, the livestock cattle opened up this morning lower yet again after yesterday's straight down day, but was able to find some footing at about 3 lower in the feeders and $1 or $2 lower in the live cattle. And now we're currently seeing a little bit of green on the screen. Now, again, that maybe gives us back a third of yesterday's losses. So I'm not going to say that we've certainly found a bottom yet. It looked like that last Friday and into Monday. And obviously the last 2 days have shown us that wasn't the case. So hard to really know. We've got cattle on feed coming out this Friday. And then an inventory report coming out as well. We should maybe see some signs of herd rebuilding, but that's just hard to know. And really, of late, cattle on feed has not been a huge, hasn't had a huge sway on what we actually see in the futures markets. But yeah, we're continuing to kind of see these futures slide, despite a little bit of positivity this morning.
And speaking about a little bit of positivity, are we finally getting some good footing on the hog side of the market after so long where we were kind of either treading water or grinding lower?
It would appear that way. We've kind of really, since about the middle of June, hogs have kind of just had this slow, steady grind upward, which has been great to watch. When you look back, but sitting in the middle of it, it sure didn't feel like anything. You don't get these, we're not getting these big, these big days that, we've seen in the cattle and stuff, but, when we've come up, what are we looking at? Not quite $10 over the last month or so. It kind of seems like maybe we're seeing a little bit of a rally here. Of course, a lot of that's we're kind of been led by, a higher pork cutout. We finally broke out of that 90 to 98 range, and we've been up around 105 recently, really following the bellies as we would expect. And so perhaps we were getting a little bit of positivity there finally.
What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
Yep, they can find us on our website at www.comstock.com, or they can call us anytime at 712-227-1110.
Zach Hooker of Comstock, my guest here today. Zach, thanks so much for the time. Really appreciate it, and have a great day.
You as well. Thank you.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters. Back on Iowa Ag Matters, and earlier in the week, Mark Magnuson was visiting with Brent Johnson of the Iowa Farm Bureau. He's the president, and they were talking about a session from the Iowa Farm Bureau Economic Summit about all the trade issues going on right now. We're wrapping up that conversation right now.
Mark Magnuson with the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm joined today by Brent Johnson. He is the president of the Iowa Farm Bureau. And Brent, here today, we're at the Economic Summit for Iowa Farm Bureau in Ankeny. An interesting point that I thought was made during the session that we just attended was when you were talking about the first Trump administration, specifically as it relates to tariffs, that farmers could see maybe the instance where they could feel some short-term pain for a longer-term gain.
Yeah.
But how things have changed now for the second Trump administration, where they're running out of that patience. Did you feel like Robert provided an answer to that question for you as far as what exactly are farmers going to see in terms of a concrete positive coming out of this situation?
Yeah, so really, the aspect of understanding that, many times we need to make a mess to clean up a mess, right? And so when the first Trump administration came about, and the first time in several generations, we've started having tariff conversations as this administration's viewpoint to try to fix some of those issues. It was a new concept then, and we had come off of a very profitable period in agriculture. So there was some appetite to be tolerant for some of those conversations. And so, as the Trump administration finished, that job was largely left undone. And then we enter into the Biden administration, and really no trade talks were happening across the entire globe as far as the United States was concerned. And many other countries were positioning themselves outside of our non-conversation. So here we are now in the Trump second conversation, more disruption and all those things. So then as I'm talking with Secretary Rowlands or other members of the administration, portraying to them that the runway of tolerance for these things, we've been supportive, but we have no more ability to be tolerant before severe pain, farm turnover. There's a lot of really challenging situations right now as we're a number of years down the road. I asked that type of a question to Bob Lighthizer on stage, and he understood the answer. I didn't get maybe necessarily a satisfactory answer as to I was looking for point number 1, 2, and 3 as to what to expect. And as expected, it is a little more complicated than that. But I think the reality is that at least for the foreseeable future, this is something that we're going to have to learn how to navigate. And, we're still fairly early in the Trump administration. And so nobody knows what comes after that. But as agriculture and farmers and industries deals with today's economics, it's become clear that this is something that we're just going to have to figure out moving forward.
Brent, is there anything else you'd like to let our Iowa farmers, our Iowa listeners know about when it comes to what we've had take place here today at the Economic Summit, or just anything you're excited about?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's all kinds of things to be excited about, to be honest with you. I mean, we're hitting on some really hard issues right now when it comes to profitability and some of those things, but ultimately, it's not lost to me that this is, the United States 250th year. I was just recently at Mount Vernon celebrating agriculture, and, the excitement and the opportunities that are in front of us. I mean, they're very exciting, and I'm really looking forward to them as we explore some new horizons. But, it's painful right now, but I think there's excitement in the future.
He is Brent Johnson, president of the Iowa Farm Bureau, as we're at the Economic Summit today in Ankeny. Brent, thanks so much for the time. Really appreciate it, and have a great rest of the day.
All right, very good. Thank you.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Rod Stewart.
When I see you tonight,
a special evening with the icon.
on a downtown train,
A night of hit after hit after hit with special guest Richard Marks. Friday, August 14th, Iowa State Fair Grandstand. Reserve tickets on sale now through iowastatefair.org. Don't miss an electrifying event. Friday, August 14th. Rod Stewart, live.
Well, we've still got plenty more of the county fairs to cover for the Heart of the County Fair Award. Next week, I'll be at the Monroe County Fair, and Mark, you'll be out and about as well.
Yes, sir, Riley. I'm headed to Northwest Iowa, Plymouth County, and Lamar's for the county fair, as we will each be presenting those Heart of the County Fair Awards to the winners from each of those districts, and we're really looking forward to that next week. Thanks for tuning in for another edition of Iowa Ag Matters. Thanks to Riley. I'm Mark Magnuson. Join us again for more tomorrow here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. This is where Iowa Ag matters.